Welcome back, True Seeker. Like a thief in the night, the U.S. Senate passed a $2 trillion stimulus package to help those who've been hurt by the shutdowns caused by the contrived coronavirus pandemic. And again, as we've been discussing, every single detail of this supposed outbreak has been contrived propaganda for agenda for the big banks. Again, this is a nation controlled by bankers. When they make big loans, they make big profits. And today they scored huge with a record $2 trillion loan. And in the words of Mitch McConnell, he said, this is like a wartime effort. If you've never seen that documentary, All Wars Are Bankers' Wars, you definitely need to check that out because it's all fact. All of the wars we've ever participated in the history of this nation were needless, and they were all here to serve the bankers. When bankers lend for war or other causes, they make big profit. Essentially, they just scored $2 trillion in income today. So let's go through this. The bill was passed in the middle of the night, the time when thieves strike, early March 25th. But the day prior, March 24th, was the day that the Senate went through their theater process of debating this stimulus package. And notice March 24th, 2020 was a date with 67 numerology. Been talking a lot about this number in the contrived headlines by the code. Wuhan equals 67, so does 2 trillion. And March 24th, 2020 was a date with 67 numerology. So perfect day to debate this $2 trillion stimulus by the numbers. Again, when you learn this simple code of letters and numbers, you see this is how your news media and your federal government operates every single day. Of course, this code is used worldwide by New World Order governments. It's the Cabal code. If you're new here, Kabbalah says God created the world with letters, numbers, and words. And very clearly, the people who want to play God use this code every single day. It's known as Gematria and also isopsophy. The history is that the Knights Templar secured this knowledge after the Crusades, brought it back to the Catholic Church, where it spread amongst European elites and slowly throughout the world. So, we'll be talking a lot about the Knights Templar because this ritual on March 25th has a lot to do with it. Of course, they fled to Switzerland, among other places, when they were booted from France. Switzerland is where the banks are headquartered, as well as the World Health Organization, which is another key organization in this scheme against the world. So, March 25th. 3/25/2020. That date written 3/25 in the US. Notice Scottish Rite of Freemasonry equals 325. Washington, D.C., where this took place, is named after the Scottish Rite Freemason George Washington. The House of the Temple, the Scottish Rite headquarters in Washington, D.C., should educate everyone about the significance of numbers to these people. Again, the House of the Temple has 33 columns on the outside that are each 33 feet tall. And in Gematria, Masonry, Secrecy, Order, Federal, they're all 33. George Washington, the 33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemason, who now has a shrine in his honor in Virginia that's 333 feet tall. So the Scottish Rite Freemasons, the Knights Templar, they're all Masonic orders. They're all affiliated. They all have history relating to each other. March 25th, in a leap year, which this is also the 85th day of the year. Templar is 85. And remember, we talked about this headline on March 17th. Steve Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, proposed an $850 billion stimulus package. Well, notice, we went more than $1 trillion over that. But we pointed out the significance of $850 million being proposed on March 17th, a date written 17/3 in the majority of the world. Knights Templar, 173. Templar, 85. The first digit's in 850 billion. So here we are on the 85th day of the year, and we get a $2 trillion stimulus package. Think about it. Also, with regards to the number 325, don't forget about the Catholic Church, some of the biggest bankers in the world who the Knights Templar serve. They had the Council of Nicaea in the year 325 AD to recruit pagans into Christianity. And of course, they wanted to grow their base for the revenue they would make. Before there was government, there was religion in the church. That's why Washington, D.C., where it resides now, it was once the Catholic colony. That's why the nation's capital is between Virginia and Maryland. Virgin Mary. So get a load of this. The first case was found in the U.S. January 21st of coronavirus in Seattle, Washington, near the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, who hosted Event 201 in October of 2019, simulating a coronavirus pandemic that kills 65 million people over 18 months and causes the loss of trillions of dollars in the worldwide economy. Again, that was a simulation done October 18th, 2019. Melinda Gates' 65th day of her age. Then the first case found in the U.S. January 21st by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation in Seattle, Washington. From that day, the first case to this bailout was the 65th day of a case of coronavirus being in the U.S. And again, the simulation said 65 million died over the course of 18 months. As we've been discussing, Knights Templar 65, Switzerland 65, pandemic is 65, which is the exact word used in the simulation, and also the word declared by the World Health Organization. Keep in mind we're in the year of the rat, which equals 65. Rats spread plagues. Bill Gates' former company, Microsoft, put out a video game last year called A Plague's Tale, where you fight off rats. If you don't count the span of days, it's also 64 days after January 21st. That's interesting because Senate equals 64. Of course, the Senate passed this $2 trillion stimulus package, which is really profit for the bankers. More debt for us, the taxpayers. More money loaned out that ensures our future will be more about paying interest to bankers than, investing in a better nation with more opportunity for the people, the children, and everyone else. From the date of the simulation, Event 201, October 18th, 2019, to this bailout is 159 days later, also 5 months and 7 days. Scottish Rite, 159.57. Donald Trump, also 159, of Scottish ancestry. What are the odds? Also, just to be certain that these numbers are no mistake, remember, right now in Seattle, Washington, where the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation is, they're doing the trial runs for the vaccine for the coronavirus. And the experimental patient is Jen Haller, whose name is 85. And remember what they said. They said they set a record date of 65 days. The vaccine made by pharmaceutical company Moderna and administered at the Kaiser Permanente Washington Research Institute in Seattle was developed and approved for human testing in only 65 days from when the Chinese government posted the virus's genetic sequence on the internet. So again, the same numbers. And to me, what that tells me is they already probably had this trial vaccine cooked up. And again, it's just false reporting by a code for an agenda. And with regards to the significance of 65 in Switzerland, again, I just want to remind people of these things. The most powerful bank in the world, the Bank of International Settlements, is in Basel, Switzerland. It was established 89 years ago. And of course, virus equals 89, so does chaos. The Masonic motto is order out of chaos. That's what we're seeing right now. They've created this chaos in our society with their agenda, with their propaganda, and now they're bringing about their planned order. And it's very easy to see how their order works. You know, it's the bank, it's lending, it's making profit off the chaos. This is how they maintain their Ponzi scheme structure of the world. The World Health Organization, also in Switzerland. Notice they were established April 7th, 4-7. The Bank of International Settlements is on the 47th parallel. 47 degrees on the Masonic compass of the Scottish Rite of France. Banks is 47, France is 47, the U.S.'s birthday is the 4th day of the 7th month. Seattle, where the first case was found in the U.S., is on the 47th parallel. This stuff is not an accident. Remember, Bill and Melinda Gates were of the main sponsors of Event 201, the simulation of 65 million dead on Melinda Gates' 65th day of her age. I want you to hear Bill Gates in his own words. January 22nd, 2017. That was 3 years to the day that the film Pandemic came out on Netflix, where Bill Gates, again, is talking about exactly what's going on right now and how we need a universal vaccine to stop the next pandemic, which his institute is heavily invested in and will profit from exponentially at the conclusion of this contrived ordeal. And don't forget that Bill Gates did another documentary called The Next Pandemic, which released November 7th, 2019, before any news of Wuhan coronavirus. You can watch it on Netflix as well. The Next Pandemic. It's only 30 minutes long. Bill Gates predicts that there will be a coronavirus pandemic in the near future out of an open-air market in China. And sure enough, his prediction was right on. That's because it's an agenda. It's planned. It's a mockery. Just like Corona means crown. Seattle, Washington's in King County, King Crown. The Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation's across the street from the most symbolic needle in the world, the Space Needle. Just like how Bill Gates is Mr. Vaccine. Just like how he's invested in the vaccine. This is all riddles. It's all symbolism. It's all powerful secret societies. And the people who do this to us now were likely born into it like Bill Gates. Bill Gates' dad, one of the key founders of Planned Parenthood, who's been focused on population control just like his son. And again, don't forget that movie Inferno, which came out on Bill Gates' 61st birthday, October 28th, 2016. That film's about a billionaire who wants to depopulate the world. Tom Hanks is in that movie, just like how Tom Hanks is in Sleepless in Seattle. And Tom Hanks' character in that film, the name of the character equals 206, like the Seattle area code. Tom Hanks supposedly came down with coronavirus. He put out that Instagram post with the Corona typewriter saying he's losing to his wife in gin rummy by 201 points. Again, these are all coded messages, number games. There's a whole lot more to it. If you want to go back and learn more, check out the mini videos I put out on the coronavirus scheme. But again, I want to play this clip one more time of Bill Gates in his own words, January 22nd, 2017, talking from Switzerland, again, where the banks are, where the World Health Organization is, about how a coming pandemic is coming, and it could be intentional. Listen.
An epidemic, either naturally caused or intentionally caused, is the most likely thing.
Let me try that one more time, louder.
I think an epidemic, either naturally caused or intentionally caused, is the most likely thing to cause, say, 10 million excess deaths.
Let's hear it one more time.
I think an epidemic, either naturally caused or intentionally caused, is the most likely thing to cause, say, 10 million excess deaths.
And that's Bill Gates' wet dream, because again, his goal is to depopulate by 15%, so really he wants more than 10 million deaths. But again, those words were spoken 3 years to the day of the film Pandemic releasing, which he's in, and nearly 3 years to the day of the first case being found in the U.S. in his own backyard. So, again, there can be no doubt that this is how the world elite operate. We've been proving it for 7 years straight. This goes well beyond Wuhan coronavirus. Again, all of this stuff is a system, a way of operating. And if you missed the video I just did yesterday on September 11th, 2001 and March 11th, 2020, the day that coronavirus was declared a worldwide pandemic, just notice, from September 11th, 2001 to March 11th, 2020 was exactly 222 months. And Wuhan coronavirus is 222, so is Order Out of Chaos. And you'll notice in the base ciphers, they're both also 78, like Scottish Rite. The Event 201 simulation was in New York. New York's 222. Of course, September 11th predominantly happened in New York, and now New York's the epicenter in the U.S. for Wuhan coronavirus. Previously, it was Seattle. And don't forget, the construction firm that built the World Trade Centers is from Seattle, just like how the first case went from Seattle, where the second biggest spread is, to New York. Again, it's rituals and numbers. And if you missed the video we did on this yesterday, definitely check it out. I explained why Seattle, what it has to do with the agenda, and just realize the exact same things taking place from September 11th. You know, the economy's tanking, Americans are losing their rights, we're being told to stay in our homes right now, travel's being interrupted, our way of life is being interrupted, but ultimately it ends in the same profit scheme for the bankers. They get the loans, they benefit, while others suffer. And just one last point, where Bill Gates was speaking when he made this prediction, Davos, Switzerland. Look at the gematria of Davos, Switzerland. 212 like the New York area code. Also 212 like the gematria of Seattle, Washington. 212 is the Manhattan area code where the World Trade Centers fell, and then they called it Ground Zero. Again, Manhattan Project, the only definition for Ground Zero prior to 9/11, the point above or below ground where a nuclear or atomic bomb explodes. Again, you guys, it's all agenda. It's all in front of our face. It's all military. It's all banking. Don't forget the Knights Templar. They were the world's original bankers, and they were also military might. Just like how the day of the Event 201 simulation, you had financial experts gathering, simulating an outbreak, and it was the exact same day the military world games began in Wuhan, China, military world games that were first played in Rome. All roads lead to Rome. The church, the Templars, think about it. But Davos, Switzerland, Seattle, Washington got perfect overlap in 3 of the 4 ciphers. Don't forget Tom Hanks of Sleepless in Seattle caught coronavirus on his 247th day of his age, Seattle, Washington. Can you guys, you can't make this stuff up. It's all agenda. And I'm glad I just caught that 68, because I almost forgot to tell you one last thing. One last thing that's interesting about the Knights Templar. Let me scroll down here. Actually, let me tell you this as well. With regards to this happening in the middle of the night, this $2 trillion stimulus package, don't forget night equals 58, like Freemasonry, like Rosicrucian, like Solomon's Temple, like Secret Society. Again, the Knights Templar, they used Al-Aqsa Mosque, which they referred to as Solomon's Temple during the time of the Crusades, as their headquarters. And the Knights Templar, they were originally the defenders of Solomon's Temple. They originally called themselves the Knights of the Temple of Solomon. And notice, Knights of the Temple of Solomon is 337. That is the 68th prime number, like Wuhan is 68. Like how today, the day they passed their big stimulus package, which will put money in their pockets, today's date was 68 numerology. And again, we talked about this right at the beginning with Wuhan, the first case being found in Seattle, Washington. See how Seattle, Washington, 6894? Just one more time, the word terror is 6894, and that's what they do. They scare us into a trap. You know, for all the people who think that, you know, this is great that they're getting a check, for a lot of people it will help them in the short run. People who are out of work who get these checks from the government, just realize though, it comes with interest, and in your lifetime you're going to pay all that back and a lot more. And this short-term gain for you, if it's even a gain, this short-term bailout for you, Again, it comes with a much bigger expense, and realize the only reason you're even in this hole is because the government put you here. They put you in this position of desperation so that they can exploit you and then come around and act like they're your friend and they helped you out. You know? It's like a burglar comes by, robs your house, burns it down, you're on the street, you can't even afford a can of soup, and a guy comes by who just burned down your house and robbed it, and he says, here's a few cans of soup to last you for the week. And you're like, wow, what a nice guy. But you don't realize that guy who just gave you a few cans of soup to sustain you, he just took everything you're worth. That's how these people operate. So that's why they need to be done away with. Nothing short of that. Till next time, True Seeker.